here we go. Ne tu Irukius. So that's a second declension vocative, which has the I in it. Anything that goes I-US, they take the US off and it goes I. If it's like Brutus, they take it off and put an E. So the ne is going to take the subjunctive, which is SS. We'll just leave the negative aspect out, but Irucus, you would have been a ridiculous accuser. C illustrable. If in those times, natas essays, you had been born when ab arito archestra qui consuls were. So those who had been made consuls or become consuls had been summoned from the plough. Like we hear some stories where someone's out in the field ploughing and he's called off. Etonym. Literally it's for and also. Usually in fact it's a good translation. So in fact those who, praese, were in charge, taking the dative of agriculture, putes, you would think him to be a flagidium, which is a disgrace. Adverb. Profecto, assuredly, illum Attilium, that goes together, it's this guy called Attilius, whom spargentem semen, he's dispersing seed, throwing seed about, that's a present participle accusative, with this little ablative section by his own hand. Those qui who had been sent, errant, they convenerant, they found the man, judicares, you would have judged him to be a turpissimum and inhonestimum. You would have found him to be, it's a superlative, so very foul and lowly or something like that, probably means. At Hercule, but by Hercules, nostrae maiores, accusative plural, nominative plural, our ancestors, longe by far, aliter differently, or by far different, it's an adverb, and deilo, concerning this man and the rest of such type of men, they exist and abanted, they were judging him or thinking him much differently, longe alter, idaque, and so from a minima tenuissima republica, say from a small and tenuous, means thin or young, republic, they reliquanted, they left for us a maximum and florentimum republica. This X here takes the ablative, so that's why that's a little section. They would have left for us a great or a huge and most flourishing or flowering republic. Suos enim agros studios colaband. So, enim 4, they were cultivating suos agros, their own fields, studiously, take it as an adverb. Non alienos cupida apetabanting. So they weren't seeking, apetabanting, with desire, cupidae, the agros alienos, others' fields. So they were pretty content to use their own lands and they weren't greedily seeking others. Quibus rebus, by which circumstances or matters, et agris, both fields and cities. Actually, we've got more than both, so we're going to have lands and cities here in the ablative, from this relative in the ablative, and nation of buses, that's plural. Republics in the accusative, so the republic and hoc imperium and this empire and the nomen, the name of the Roman people, they auxeranted, they increased the republic and the empire and the name of the Roman people. Chapter 51. Nequi, so neither should ego, I, profero this here, so should I bring forth this here, quo conferenda, so they can make a comparison. Confers used as comparison if you check your dictionary. This is the gerundive version. With hisk, with this CE is just an enclitic of strength, so it strengthens it. So he's not talking about this to make a comparison with these, concerning which now we're making inquiry, nunc querimus, but so that this intelligator passive. So this might be understood. Cum apod maiores nostrae, when amongst our ancestors, summae viri in class classi miqui homine, so men of the top rankings and the most famous men who omni tempores, in all times, to the gubernacula of the republic, debent. They ought to be ready to sit, to sedere, for the controlling of the republic. Gubernar means like a governor. It's also what's used for the guy who steers ships, so he's controlling it. So at all times, they ought to be ready to sit to take control of the republic. Tama, nevertheless, or still yet, in agris, quoque, in the fields also, they would be aliquantum calending. They would be spending some times in the cultivating of the agris, the fields, and consumption. And they would be eating up all their time, using up all their time in these sort of works, opere. And so, oportere ei homine. So you ought to this type of man, ignosco means to pardon, him who he fatiators himself, he confesses himself to be a rustic, someone who lives in the country. So he ought to be ignoscoed, he should be pardoned. When he was vixerating, he was living, semper always, assiduous, constantly was living rura in the countryside. Cum praesertum, when especially, nihil esset, is nothing, quod aut patri gratis. So there's nothing more gratis, more favourable to a father, a patri, or more jucundius, comparative for himself, more pleasant for himself. So especially these sayings, so praesertum, especially there's nothing which is more gratius, favourable to a father, or pleasant for the man sibi himself, or revera, or in truth, it's able, posset, able, facere, to make a man more honestus. So it's a good and distinguished, honest type of living. Scroll a bit. Section 52, odium igator. So igator, therefore, this odium or hatred, in filium, in the accusative, towards his son, acurimus, very fierce towards the son. So it's an odium patris of the father. So therefore this hatred of the father most towards his son, most bitter, ex hoc from this, opinio, as I think, or as I suppose, ostendator, which is shown, here we have the vocative again, Eutrachius, because hunk's the demonstrative pronoun for the son here, because he partiabator, he allowed him to be rurai, locative in the countryside. Norm quid. Norman nonne, a questions mean surely or surely not. This one means surely not. Quid is just emphatic. Surely this must be something else, aliud, than this acirum odium, this bitter hatred. Imo, one of my favourite little words, it means to make something more precise. It can mean contrarily or even stronger towards what was indicated in vero. But in quid, he said, it est vero. So it's, certainly there is something aliud. So certainly there's something else. And I've set up the daily dictionary word here for norm quid. As I said, the quid is just the strengthener. Question expecting a negative. Can it be that? Is it possible? Surely not. Top 10,000 words in the dictionary. Where were we? For istum ex hedere in animo, for he hababat. For he was having in his mind, in animo, which is in with the ablative, for, nam, to disinherit. Ex hedere means to disinherit istum. Istum's the pronoun for the son again. Audio, okay, I hear this. This is something of the point. He's going to be disinherited. And nunc, now, dicis, you say, aliquid something, quod, which is pertinent ad rem, which pertains to the matter. So this matter that he was going to be disinherited, now you're getting somewhere. Nam, for, illa, opinio, for I suppose or think, I don't know what illa is, it's a female or something. Tu quoque, you also concedis, you concede this. Okay, so he's going into oratio oblique because of the head verb opinior. This to be something levia, light and ineptia. It just means empty or vain, and that's what it's taking illa. This matter is light and pointless, basically. in Cicero's opinion. Quippy sense, quippy qui, it's usually go together, or not usually, but a lot of the time. He, nay, in opidum quidem. So, nay quidem, he not even, in with the accusative, he didn't come into town this year except per raro. Per means very, so very rarely he venerated into town. So he didn't go to convivias with his patri. So convivia is like a banquet or party. He didn't he didn't go into any of these parties with his father, since he did not even come into town except very perero, very rarely. Domum suum, so someone owns a house. Istum, if you're looking at demonstrative pronouns, usually it's also used of someone who's accused of something in a law court. It can be that near you, or it can be something you disapprove of. But quisquam, so this means anybody did not, fere. Again, this is in the Fermi family. It's not very often was anyone vocabating. No one was calling him to his house, to their house. This is invites. Nec mirum, this is not surprising. He, nequi, because he neither did he live in the city, in urbe, and nor, here we have the second type of future, revocaturus. He couldn't, in return, the rebit, he couldn't in return call them to his house. So people couldn't call him their house for these convivias. And that's not surprising, because he lived out in the bush and he couldn't invite them back. Virum, but, hey, these things, T quoque intellegus esse. You also, intellegus, you know these to be nugatoria. Nugatoria is some form of nugas, which means rubbish. Okay, so it's rubbish or nonsense. And illud quod coepimus vidimus. So let us see to illud quod copimus, that which we began. Copimus is what we began. Quo certius. Certius is a comparative. Ut turns into quo with a comparative. So that a more certain argumentum, this could be like the argument in the court here, odi, repiro, nullo modo, so that we're not in any way able to reperio, to find this odi, this hatred. Okay. Ex hedere pater filium cogibat. So the father, nominative, was cogitabating, he was thinking about disinheriting his filium. Mitto quere, so I omit or dismiss, set aside, quere, an inquiry into de causa, which is the reason, and quere is asking instead, qui scius, how do you know this? Qui scius, how do you know this? So the argument is the father was intending to disinherit the son, and he's not saying we can just set aside the cause for that. I'm going to ask, how in the hell do you scius this? How do you know? Temetsi, so even if, although, te dicere, even though you say this, atqui enumerate, and you enumerate or count out the causes, apportat omnis, all of them, which he ought to have portabat, and id erat certi accusators, and the officium is the duty of these accusators, basically, who tantus sceleris arguerit, who are arguing such a crime. A sceleris is a crime. You need to explicare, which is to unfold or explain, omnia vita, all these vices or faults, and the peccata fili, and the sin of the son, and with which incensus parents, in which the father, the parent, was incensus, burning with rage, poterit animum inducere, so that he would inducere into his mind, which means to lead into his mind, that which vinceret, conquers naturum itself, nature itself, or so that the amorem, so that his love, penitus, which is deep inside him, which is sown deep inside of him, incitum, he would iicere, he would throw out this ex animo from his mind. So what in the hell was this fault and sin of the son which made his father burning with anger, and he would overcome even his nature itself and the love that he has deep inside him, to throw this out of his mind, so that technically, finally, the patrem esse, so that he was oblivious scarenta, so he was oblivious, or so the father was going to be forgetful of the son, or he's going to disinherit him. That's what he's getting to the point of. Okay. So which was this thing which would make him forget that he was a father, without Magnus Huiski Picker. So without this great Picards, without a great sin Huiski of him, the CE is just a strengthener again. It's in the pronouns. So that he arbiter, I would think that he would not have been able to Akira. This wouldn't have been able to happen without Sine, without takes the ablative, without a great Picardus, without sin. Okay, so we're going to have to continue tomorrow.